Welcome to our first live. This is Ann Moradian and Meyer-Nandi, straight from Paris. It's a sunny day and we hope you're also having a beautiful day. And today we are going to play with two subjects. One is complexity. Ann is a somatics and embodiment expert and practitioner. And we are going to look at complexity from diverse backgrounds and also how our Vishing Method could be an important tool to support these different parts of ourselves. And would you like to start and just tell us what complexity means for you and what kind of levels of complexity you have identified?
Okay, so I'll start a little bit, and I'm going to start with really like what's closest to home, and that is, just being a person, I guess, is pretty complex. Shanta and I were just talking, actually, about sort of the complexities and challenges of parenting.
Big subject. That's a big subject.
Big subject, yeah, big subject. And basically, words are always hard for me. But basically, decontextualizing or separating and disconnecting the relationships of things seems to me to be like this symptomatic big scale problem, regardless of where we are. So, for example, the mind-body, I think, is becoming more and more familiar. We are becoming more and more familiar with that as an important reconnect that needs to happen so that we can connect to the feedback system of the body and so that we can really respond optimally to whatever it is we encounter in our lives and so that we can keep ourselves healthy and sane. We can stay coherent within ourselves. And that is just the first starting point, but that in itself is a massively complex set of relationships right there. And then you put the individual within a social environment, and you get a whole bunch of more massively complex relationships among family, parents and children, partners, employers, employees, all of these things, as well as culture, group cultures, so cultures of belief and values like schools, or for example, for me, a lot of my work is in the yoga community or in the dance community. Each of these communities, even within distinct different types of dance, we have different cultures within them of what we value, what we understand, how we behave. But each of us are in different cultures.
Yes. So just for simplicity's sake, I'd like to quote one phrase you've just used when we were drinking tea without being filmed, and that is that the mind has lost its grounding. And so let's unpack that one.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of relationship around that, because we as a human species have a very high IQ. Some of us less than the others, but we are a very mental-driven species, which has given us a lot of our strengths. We can look into the future, we can learn from the past, and at the same time, this conditioning also comes with its shadows, and also behaviors that are very mental, but because they're not embodied, can also come with environmental destruction. I know this is a very strong thesis that I'm making, but we are going to unpack that either in this video or in the next one, and how we can go back into its grounding. How can we give the mind back its grounding in the body, in a context, in a contextual society, within human ecologies, and also feel better in ourselves again.
So in the research I was doing fairly recently, I was looking at what the skill sets and the abilities are of somatic and movement practitioners, movement experts. So the experts I was working with or observing were numerous, and they had a massive amount of experience. So I think they had to have a minimum of 10 years experience, and they had, I think, an average mean of 30 years experience. So they were really, really experienced experts, which was great. And in the process, what I discovered, or one of the things that started to come out was that these people are practicing on a regular basis, balancing thinking, feeling, and doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that thinking aligns with mind, the feeling aligns with body, and the doing aligns with the world that we're inhabiting. And so they have a capacity to create kind of coherence or balance among those three domains, and they do it while they're immersed in the process. It's pretty amazing, actually. And this is just in that particular community of that kind of movement. So mindful movement includes basically martial arts, somatic practice, Tai Chi, yoga. It includes any kind of movement in which we are conscious and mindful as we do it. Mm-hmm. And this balancing of thinking, feeling, and doing sort of set me off kind of trying to understand more, what are we looking at between thinking, feeling, and doing? And what I started to, I guess, correlate with this was, okay, so the words are going to be tricky because I'm going to be using words like cognition and consciousness. And these do not have an agreed upon definition amongst the diverse communities. So I know the neuroscience community is not happy with this use of cognition. I'm using the definition of cognition that comes from Umberto Maturana and Francisco Varela. And this is, I think, they're basically what they've done by this definition, by giving this definition of cognition, they're giving basically cognitive functioning to all living creatures, which really sort of challenges humans' place in the whole structure, but it's kind of beautiful too. So basically, their definition of cognition is, I'm going to totally destroy this and not put it beautifully. I've got it written in my paper really perfectly, exactly as they said.
We'll link the paper too.
We'll link it. Yeah, that's fine. But basically, each organism is responding through their organism to the environment that they're in order to survive, in order to thrive, in order to bring forth a world, is one of the phrases that they use. So that this organism and its ecological niche are in this dialogue, in a way, in this conversation. They call it coupling, where one is affecting the other, like the environment is affecting the organism, but the organism is, through its behaviors, affecting the environment. So that could be so simple as an organism moving towards something like, ooh, a warm cup of tea, or retreating from something like, ooh, that's too cold, or oh, that feels hot, or that hurts. So this cognition is an animate, for a human, it's a bodily skill set. Okay, it's our bodily knowledge is how I'm seeing that. Okay, so if we put that and we put the human organism as the organism, then we have this cognitive capacity, which is all of the feedback that comes through our body, and informs us of the context that we're in and of the interior environment of ourselves. Are we hungry? Are we cold? Do we need something? Does something hurt? Like all of this interoceptive information and all of this exteroceptive information and all of the kinesthetic information about proprioception, where we are in space. But basically all of this information helps us know where we are, how we are, and what we need to be doing. So this is cognitive, basic skill set information that all organisms, all living organisms have, even the single cell. Okay, and then we have consciousness. Okay, so consciousness seems to be a human thing. At least we think it's a human thing, because that's the best we know so far. We only know what we can measure, and we only know what we know, which is constantly evolving. So, but consciousness is so, and again, still according to Umberto Maturana and Francisco Renata, is, and then also Antonio Damasio, a little bit on this one, is the organism, its capacity to know itself and its environment. So it's a sense of self and environment, a conscious awareness and awareness of itself and its environment. And pretty much that simply, I think, consciousness. Usually people align it with language, and I haven't done the research on that, so I can't help open up that particular box. But what I saw and what I think is really fascinating is that we have this conscious functioning mental capacities of knowing, which we align with our intellect, with the prefrontal cortex, with the capacity to manage our emotions, think things through, think before and after, forward and backward, and to make decisions. At the same time, we have this cognitive functioning, this animal information, this organismic information. And what was really interesting to me in the whole research I did was that one seems to regulate the other. They co-regulate. So, for example, when you have just the body and our emotions and this feeling sense of being this animal creature body being that we are, and if we let that just be all that ever informs us, then in the worst case, or I'm not sure it's the worst case, but in the extreme cases, we kind of go astray. For example, through the body and all of our felt sense, all of these, I don't even know how to language it, but basically just skip the language. Let's dance it. But basically, so for example, things that we're afraid of from the body, some of the reasons that we have rejected the body, historically, will be the sexual drives, which can be overpowering, will be tendencies toward violence. So in some cases where violence becomes so
visceral.
Well, it's when they run amok. There's a thing called running amok, where the violence just you can't stop, and then also even madness. I think the beautiful visioning that we have through our intuitive senses, which I believe are probably also related to our physical experience to a certain degree, in a strange way. I'm not going there. That one's way too complex, but. I think there's a fine line between madness and, for example, vision or imagination. And I think any of those things take us to a place where cognition is no longer constructive or useful, but actually problematic. I think we have the same thing on a cognitive level, on a conscious level, where we overvalue so much mental thinking, analyzing, logic, to the point where we're so disconnected from the reality that we should be grounded in, from the body, from the world that we inhabit, that we end up doing actions with behaviors that are destructive, not just to the environment around us, but to ourselves, which is, I think, kind of the situation we're in.
Yes. If I had listened to you, let's say 8 years ago, I would have felt lost. I would have been able to follow your words, but I would have felt lost because I would have understood you and at the same time understood how little I understand. And I think a lot of people, especially those who work very cognitively, so you're lucky to have that access to your body as a dancer and martial arts practitioners. Whereas a lot of us work a lot with our minds.
Right.
And that's also why Anne and me are collaborating, why she's such a precious part of Finding Sustain is bridging those worlds because they need each other. Yeah, and so I will just very quickly go into the science of well-being. We are beings who work with reference points. So the way we perceive our environment also shapes our perception. If consumption is one of the pillars, how people define themselves, we'll define ourselves like that. Or if we are in an environment of activism, we define ourselves by activist goals, whereas others who are more on a salary base or on the career ladder, they'll define themselves like that. And in these times of social media, we see a lot of reference points, but the problem is also that they hit into our scarcity round where we don't feel enough. That means we keep on comparing ourselves and we'll never be enough to that standard. And let's also bear in mind that a lot of people look at us thinking they'll never be as good as we are, because what we do is we always show our best selves. That's a big issue, which also motivates in some parts our consumption our consumption patterns. We feel we need to buy certain things. We feel we need to travel in a kind of way. We also exhaust ourselves by working very late because we want to be that successful person. And I mean, there's a lot, and I think we will do another live on these very concrete pillars of well-being and happiness. Let me just, for brevity's sake, say, when we are resourced, when we sleep enough, when we give enough space to our social life, to our values, we eat well, we nourish ourselves, we are more productive, and we have that mind space and that body space to also take good decisions which are good for ourselves, for the planet, for the people around us. And we are far more capable of seeing and acting as interdependent beings. Since we promised it, we'll go into the Vishing Method, and I hope you'll give us a very short little applied practice of what it could mean to just act from a feeling level as well, from a grounded level. But let me start with the Vishing Method, and then we can stop with a nice mindful moment, since it's lunch hour as well, and we want to nourish ourselves. The Vishing Method is a mental contrasting method, which is based in neuroscience. It has been shown that if we visualize a big goal, our minds already look forward to it, but it also feels like it's already been done. And that is one of its shadow sides. And this is why the S stands for stumbling blocks. I mean, there are those people who start with the pessimistic stumbling blocks, it can't work out. And that often hinders them to then put their plans into fruition. Whereas if you pair a big vision, intuiting it, and just visualizing how it's going to be, if you have accomplished that goal, and then look at the stumbling blocks, you feel far more prepared to go for it, and you don't give up that quickly. And once you've paired those, you can go into the how. Strategize, make a plan, make what ifs. The wish in itself is a wonderful tool. The challenge is only that you can only have so many wishes, especially big ones, because there are a lot of things we could be doing, we want to be doing, but where do we want to put our mental energy to? And this is why at Finding Sustainia, we have, and Anne has been a huge support in that from the embodiment perspective. We have also included the ING. The I stands for integrity. Is my wish in line with my values? Is this really something resonating with me? Is this what I feel is right, what I think is right? Then there's nourishment. And that's something we have played around with a lot. And that is, do I have the mental and physical resources to do that? And how can I do that? Just strategize that too, how you can take some space for resting, for nourishing yourself, for nourishing your family. Because especially, for instance, I come from an activist background. I could just lose sight of everything, of sleep, of motherhood. I mean, kind of. But let's say before I was a mother, I could go very extreme in my work. because I have this burning desire for change. And so integrating that nourishment aspect is a way that nourishes your idea, your wish, and makes you sustain yourself much longer and care without being careless towards yourself. And then there comes grit, a wonderful word, which means perseverance. And Anne and me, we are going to create a cohort-based coaching course around this Vishing method, and also how to be that kind of a change agent you want to see in the world while still sustaining yourself and your idea. I think I've said enough about the Vishing method. A lot more will follow. But now I'd love to give the stage to you, and just will follow you in a little exercise you have probably spontaneously come up with now.
Yes, actually, quite spontaneously. Okay, so I mean, I'm sure you guys have all kind of done a lot of stuff already. And really, it's very little and very simple that has to be done. It's really to slow down and let ourselves feel. And I think that is, I was thinking as you were speaking, Shanta, about nourishment and how critical timing is for nourishment. So, for example, at a certain point in time, the same thing that is nourishing could be completely destructive in a way. And I'm trying to think of an example of that. I'm not coming up with it, but
next time,
right? But there's something about timing, and in the somatic practices, what we talk about is really taking time to feel. So really, and that's the first thing we do every time. So if you will just sit comfortably but upright in your chair, so you're away from your back, from the back of your chair if you're on a chair, so that you can feel your feet on the ground beneath you, or if you're seated on the floor, that's great. You can do this standing too, but you want to just feel nicely aligned, kind of square through the shoulders and hips. And then you want to push down through the ground and allow the crown of the head to move upwards. So this is really like a plant. So you've got rooting system that goes down into the earth, that's gravity. And then there's a rebound pushing up, just like a plant that's searching for the sun. So there's a little bit of action inside the body, but the outer body is really relaxed. Okay? So this is what, when we say relax, we're lying, because the inside is really quite gently but persistently active. The outer body is resting. Go ahead and lower your gaze or close your eyes. And then just give yourself a moment to arrive. So you may already have arrived in your body, in this moment, here, where you are. But you might not have. So we're just going to give us just this little moment. You can almost feel on a cellular level all the cells in your body just starting to flow and bead together within the skin of you. You can bring your attention to the sounds around you in your space. You feel the temperature around you, the movement of air. And just feeling your skin as your skin senses all of this information around you. From here, we're going to bring the attention to the beating rhythm of the heart. So some people can do this and they can feel it without touching their body, but many might need to touch the throat or an armpit or a wrist to see if you can feel the beating rhythm of the heart. And as you sense or imagine the beating of your heart, bring your attention also to your breath. And let your exhalations become a little bit deeper, a little longer, a little slower. And the inhalations, just let them be full and easy and slow. As you're breathing, observe or sense how the beating of your heart and the rhythm of your breath work together. And take another breath or two here, just enjoying that harmonization of heartbeat and breath. And then as you continue to breathe, nice and steady, slow and deep, just bring your attention, to your physical state. Just checking in, how are you feeling physically? Is there any part of the body that's hurting or uncomfortable, tight, cold, maybe too warm? And as you're breathing, just see if you can bring or direct some of the breath to the part of your body that needs your attention and care. So just imagining breathing into that region or area. And when you exhale, you can imagine washing away the discomfort, letting that just dissipate as you exhale. And when you inhale, imagine creating space or ease in that part of the body. And the exhalation, just letting that inner discomfort release and dissipate, wash away. And take another couple of breaths here. As you finish the next exhale, we're going to just shift the attention to an energetic level in your body. So we're just observing as you breathe. What's your level of energy like today? What's your energy like in a general way? Do you have a lot of energy? Do you have sort of stressed out energy? Exhausted? And just observing. So as you inhale, just allowing your body to be supported. As you exhale, just allowing the energies in your body to kind of relax a little bit. Just releasing anything that you can that's not useful right now. And as you finish your next exhalation, we'll take a little shift. If you need to shift your body around and move a little bit, feel free to do that. So that's your body feedback that says, I'm getting tired of sitting in this position. I need to move a little bit. So with your eyes closed or your focus down, just go ahead and take the movement that you might need to do. So maybe the neck needs a little relief. Maybe the shoulders need a little relief. Maybe it's the lower back or a twist. So that feedback right there is the kind of information that we integrate, or should ideally integrate, are designed to integrate naturally. Okay, so coming back to that quieter state, and just bringing your attention as you breathe to the mental activity in the body. So in the mind, whatever that is, that construct of the mind, just what's going on mentally. Okay, not good or bad, whatever it is, this is what it is. Okay, we don't need to put an emotional judgment of good or bad. We can discern, detail information, and we can make decisions about that, and this is constructive. But kind of leaning straight into this is good or this is bad kind of judgment actually is really destabilizing. So just observing mental activity. Again, just if you can, you're letting things quiet a little bit so we observe better. Just focusing as much as possible in this observing state. Still breathing. Okay, and then bringing the attention to the emotional states. So here, same thing. It's not good or bad, whatever you need. We're just tasting the inside of us, how we're feeling, how we're doing, where we are on an internal level. So don't judge it. Just allow yourself to observe it. If it's something where you feel like a judgment wants to come, just forgive yourself, pardon yourself for having that feeling. It's just a mental idea that that is a bad feeling or a good feeling. But the feeling is just the feeling. What we do with it is the more interesting part. So, just taking the time. As we look or observe our emotional states, often there are physical states that align with it, like tightness in the jaw, tension in the shoulders, tightness in other parts of the body. The emotions and the body states, in my experience, are very strongly coordinated, let's say. So from here, just feeling and breathing into all of you. So your physical being, your energetic being, your emotional being, your mental being, all of you. And exhaling, letting all of that just flow through and beyond you. And when you inhale, just taking in a new breath. In French, the word is inspiration. Beautiful word. So you're taking in a new inspiration and you're exhaling. It's an expiration. It expired. It's done. Let it go. This is life. Taking in the moment, this new breath, this new moment, nourishment. And when you exhale, letting it go. It's used. It's done. Letting it go. And again, the inhale, taking in a fresh. And the exhale, letting it go. So I think we can stop there. It's really just a mindful, embodied experience. So it's not the mind in its state itself, but the mind and the body integrated. I hope it's useful.
It definitely felt like exactly what I needed today. Today the day has already been very complex, and just going back to my body and actually validating and letting the emotions and feelings and states stand is something very powerful. And also in the science of pain and neuroscience, already acknowledging an emotion without going into the reactionary thoughts and feelings around it can help decrease the intensity. So if you're feeling stressed about a deadline or you don't feel enough, just speaking or thinking it out loud actually tames it. So name it to tame it. And if there's a takeaway for today's session, I'd say it's that. Just let's be curious and discern and observe ourselves. What kinds of feelings are there and what kinds of sometimes urges to run away from them, or finding it impractical that we are feeling tired or stressed or sad. Instead, kind of being curious about it can actually really be helpful. We hope you enjoyed the session. There'll be more to come, and also feel free to ask us your questions or what kind of perspectives and turns you'd like our next session to have. And we remain with many good thoughts and wishes. And yeah, talk to you soon. A bientôt.